Everybody, welcome back to Apostate Weekly. I'm your host, James.
And I am Ryan.
And this week, we have some new light coming to you from the governing body themselves.
It's blinding.
Blinded by the light.
New light.
Even though they say it, gradually gets brighter.
Okay.
I
So
think
I
that's
don't
just
have a
their
sunburn right now.
I think that's just their balding heads gradually getting brighter
As they get old. Yes.
as they get older.
One foot in the grave.
Well, and just like the governing body, how they update their stuff and everything, we also update our stuff. This week, that while the song is the same, I updated the video for our intro song. So let's watch that intro and then we'll get into the show today.
Awesome.
And we got
nice.
that
I like it.
beautiful new graphic from my friend Miss Usato.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank
Who
you.
did that. So thank you very much for that. It's wonderful artwork. I actually have shown her artwork on a previous show as well that she did too. So
I remember. Really cool.
So I definitely appreciate those efforts for people helping out with the show. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
See some new faces here. Welcome.
Hi, Melody. K-Fred. K-Fred, are you okay? K-Fred, are you okay? K-Fred, are you okay?
Maybe K-Fred is just K, not okay.
Oh, K.
K.
Okay, not 3 Ks. Don't do 3 Ks back to back. Okay, 1 K will suffice. Maybe 2 if you have to push it, but the 3rd K, you're out of order.
Well, I mean, I just start thinking of white sheets and bonfires. All the boys getting together, right?
Yeah. just putting up some, steaks.
Yeah.
You don't cook those steaks. These are different kind of steaks. You do burn them though.
Yeah.
They do burn them.
And they dance and sing, and it's a great time.
I wish they would dance themselves right into the grave. Anyhow.
Yeah, no kidding. Or out of existence for that kind of.
Yeah, they should not even be existing in this country. It's so weird. It's a weird phenomenon.
Anyways,
criminal.
We kind of went off into a weird tangent there to start off.
This is just going to be a weird show, man.
Yeah, it is.
This is all just weird, wild stuff. We're living in a opposite world right now.
Because all this new light that we're getting really is blinding. Because who would have ever thought that the witnesses would have gotten rid of time reporting?
I would never have thought it.
But they didn't get rid of it completely, though. So this is an instance where we have both old light and new light sharing the same space at the same time, which is a weird phenomenon.
Maybe the dimensions are colliding. Is that what the New World Order is?
The governing body's dementia is colliding? Yes.
Yeah, I think we are living in a parallel universe.
Yes.
Because we've got some new light to reveal. If you have not heard, where have you been? Have you been under a rock? Because it got abundantly bright over this past week. It was just back to back. Now, of course, we learned about some of this stuff before we were supposed to.
Well, that's the apostate way, isn't it?
How dare we? How dare we get the bright light first?
I know.
It's almost as if light travels at different speeds for people who are living in
We're getting ahead of Jehovah's chariot.
Okay, so were you not laughing about the fact that Stephen Lett is using that analogy of Jehovah's chariot is on the move? And then last year I made that whole big funny video about Toni Morris's chariot on the move, Jehovah's chariot. What is up with this Jehovah's chariot analogy?
I don't know.
It's the
You, you,
funniest thing to me.
you, you'd think you'd update his technology to like a vehicle or something, you know? Still living in the
Okay,
past.
okay, like, and also they were using their new, not new, but their pictures of Armageddon, and they had the soldiers and the police aiming their, like, ARs up at the
Oh, yes.
sky.
Yes. Oh,
I Dude, I was howling to myself, all by myself. I stood up and I was howling because I was like, they really are sticking to this narrative that Jesus is gonna come with his sword on some horses and duke it out with dudes with AR.
yep. So I want to share the um, announcement here
You
from,
do it.
yeah, I know, right? From the official website of the Jehovah's Witnesses here. I know it's been shared many times, but we'll share it
It
so that
bears
way
repeating.
it does.
It does.
Because it says, beginning November 1st, 2023, congregation publishers will no longer be asked to report the amount of time they spend in the ministry, nor will publishers be asked to report their placements, the videos they show, or return visits. Instead, the field service report will simply have a box that allows each publisher to indicate that he or she shared in any form of the ministry during the month. There will be one more box where publishers can report the number of different Bible studies they conduct. Missionaries, circuit overseers, and their wives, special pioneers, regular pioneers, and auxiliary pioneers will continue to report the number of hours they spend in the ministry, along with the number of different Bible studies they conduct. And then they say further information will be provided to all congregation in the coming.
Of course not.
Of course
Of
not.
course not.
It just sounds like a creepy skeleton, like perfect for Halloween. Of
Exactly.
course not. All he's missing is the cobwebs.
Well, when I made that, I also made sure to zoom in on his face too for that.
Yeah, I like that.
Make it a
Yeah,
little
so
creepier.
it really declined. They went from like just, I don't know, was that last year or 6 months ago to changing the hours? And
Yeah.
and now you don't even need to report. But did you all take notice as to what you still are reporting? Bible studies, because they want to make people feel like all their hours in field service are creating Bible studies, which then create new baptized people or should do. But their numbers are so abysmal, they've not been able to get people. I think there was a time where people were becoming Jehovah's Witnesses, but in the age of technology, it's not cutting
Yeah.
it anymore. It's not cutting it.
No.
There's too much information out there about them. They can't hide behind closed doors any longer.
Well, think about this too. So, and you'll know this just as well as I do. Our time in service was our spiritual gauge. How spiritual you were was dependent on how much hours you were spending out in
Exactly.
those knocking on those doors. So, in order to qualify to be a ministerial servant, good morning, Fee, to be an elder, to have
Yes.
privileges in the hall, to do anything to about anything in the congregation, just
Any
to
privilege.
or just to keep your status quo, whether you did those things or not, you had to have a certain amount of hours in. And generally, it went on the national average, is what they wanted you to do at the
Right.
bare minimum. And usually that was around 10 hours a month.
Yeah, that's what I remember. At least from when I was a kid, it was at least, and I tried to do 4 to 5 above that.
Right. Because
Just
you're just
just
such a good girl.
well, I was just one of my parents to love me. Love me, mommy and daddy, please.
Now, Ryan, this is not the show about your daddy issues.
I know, please. We don't have enough time, James.
I know. Or therapist.
No, hey, if you're in the audience and you can help me, you let me know. Oh
But
my goodness.
anyways, to go on. Now think about the PMOs right now. How this is great for them.
Absolutely.
because they can be like, I don't have to go out, and all I got to do is check a little box,
Mhm.
and it's their life's easier. But
Right.
also, I will say, in the announcement that was made about it, heard mention about how it was going to be easier to track how many pioneers and stuff they need throughout the world, right? But I'm like,
Right.
wait a minute. Hey, Deep Drinks. Daniel, right? I think it's Daniel.
Dave,
Dave. Oh,
you got the
sorry.
D. You got the D.
I got the D.
You got the big D right. The
um,
important part.
but weren't they able to track
It
all
is.
that stuff before with all the numbers they had anyways? So like
Yes,
what kind
they
of
are
bullshit are they trying to pull on the
because they
members?
can.
You
Because they
know?
can, because their members won't get it. Their members will just see this as an opportunity for them to maybe relax. But we already know, like, I'm waiting to see how the next talks are going to align, what the letters are going to say to the elders, because you and I know that even though they say one thing, something else has been implanted in their head, and there's other, like, deeper understandings in their literature that you and I just know that you are like, if you wanna be considered, not marked because you're a bad association, then you're gonna want to be showing your face. Even if I don't have to write down how many hours, you want your face to be there because otherwise people are gonna think you're slipping, and it's a self-reporting system. So if you're not there, I'm gonna just I mean, and maybe I won't, like, go tell on you, but I'll just be, "Oh, hi, sister so and so. Have you noticed that brother James has not been out in fields? Or I hope he's okay. I just haven't seen him in months."
Yeah.
You know how it works. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
wondering what really will be the changes. I don't know, but I am thankful for this because it will be
But
easier to lie if you're into
it
that
will
thing.
be. But here's another thing too. So since you're not going to have that gauge of spirituality anymore, how many people will now be able to qualify for privileges with because they don't have a time requirement to meet anymore?
A gauge, that gauge.
So, and I think this is a good good sign of how the organization is falling apart because they need people in those positions in the congregations and they're not getting them because of the hours of field service requirements that they had. So
Mhm.
now these people who weren't qualifying before might be able to qualify now because they just keep on checking that box.
True. I guess it depends. I think a lot of it is gonna come down to each congregation, how tight-knit they are, how cliquey they are.
Yep.
Every congregation that I went to, there were cliques. I didn't know it as a child, I didn't realize it, but now as an adult looking back, I certainly see it, realizing, like, parties we weren't invited to, people's houses we weren't invited to, things of that nature. So there are that could be part of it that plays into how well you can back out into the corners, into the darkness, and stay away from that disco new light. I wonder if that new light is just a disco ball just spinning around in their empty bobbleheads. Just see light poking out of their nose and ears every once in a while.
Kind of like um, the guy from the Matrix when Neo goes inside of him at the
Yeah,
end and it just
and he
blows
explodes.
up from outside and just you see the little specks of light coming out and then just
Yes, breaking through. That's the new that is the new light. I should try to animate that. Just make the new light just
there you
pop the
go.
ball.
That would be
Okay, well,
great.
I'll see if I can I don't know that I can make that happen, but I certainly will try. You know that I
Now,
will try.
would we like to see briefly how the governing body comes up with new light?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Is this gonna be Winder
Yes,
explaining
this is
the
going to be
questions they ask?
this is going to be a very short version of it because he explains it a lot more, but I just clipped out just a little bit of it to as a teaser for it. So I'm going to show that here real quick.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, knowing this, then we are not embarrassed about adjustments that are made, nor is an apology needed for not getting it exactly right previously. We understand this is how Jehovah operates. He reveals matters gradually when it is needed. And also, the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible, and so it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction. The brothers do the best they can with what they have and what they understand at the time, but are happy if Jehovah sees fit to clarify matters.
Ay,
So
ay,
Jehovah
ay,
needs to
ay.
see fit to clarify matters because they don't understand, but Jehovah doesn't let them have the proper understanding to begin with.
Mm-mm.
Like, make it make sense.
That is truly what happens when you cherry pick scriptures. And this is always they're always going to be chasing the next new light. They've kind of come up with a really interesting concept. And but you're right. How can you say that the light gets brighter gradually, but for over for what 150 years? I can't do the math right now, but for approximately 150 years, they've been claiming the end of the world. That doesn't seem gradual to me.
No.
That's not gradual whatsoever. That's actually boom, and then it failed, but you're still holding on to that. I
Well,
don't.
and then again, you got to remember they'll have new light about something. That something will prove to be wrong, like one of their end of days prophecies. And then what do? They change the light bulb and give you another new light revelation and just
Right.
move the goalpost.
Mm. More
So
like a kaleidoscope.
yeah.
Everything's just fractured in there. Nothing's really pieced together. And
And
every
all
time
the
they drop it, just breaks even more.
XJWs have put that ink on the eyepiece, so when they pull it off, you see that little ring around their eye and show them for what fools they really are.
Oh my goodness. And I was dying when he was like, we don't have to say we're sorry. We don't have to be
Oh, I
apologetic, however
know.
he put it. But then later on, or there was some point in that talk, he said that they were humble. I was like,
Yeah.
how are you saying that you have humility when you don't need to apologize for getting it wrong? You should do, because you've gotten wrong what God has revealed to you. So
Yeah.
should you not be apologizing? But we have
They
to apologize for our shortcomings. Okay.
that I think that was a comment I made to Ron Pimo on Twitter about something like that. They don't have to apologize, but you better apologize if you mess up. So it's
Yeah,
just so convoluted all the way
exactly.
around.
They're very flashy. They change things at a whim whenever they decide. And that is okay. It's all right for them, even though people's lives, pioneers, auxiliary pioneers, these people have missionaries, whatever, they have dedicated their lives to hitting this number. They have not had careers trying to hit these numbers. And all of a sudden, thousands of people just
Yeah.
had the governing body say, ah, you don't have to do that. It's not important. I'd be losing my ever loving ish. I
Oh
would.
yeah.
I would if
Yeah.
I'd like my jiddu, he spent, I don't know, the last maybe 40, 30 years of his life, at least 30 years of his life probably being like auxiliary pioneer, special pioneer. And just for it to be like, oh, doesn't matter now, it's not important. Just mark down your Bible studies. Like,
And now let's also talk about the other big elephant in the room of new light announcements that they made as well, because there was another big one when they started talking about the Great
whew,
Tribulation and how the teaching used to be that with the start of the Great Tribulation was like the closing of the door on the ark. Nobody else was getting into paradise after that. That's it. You're done. And
mhm.
now they're saying, well, you know, uh,
Uh, we can't be
maybe
certain.
we weren't right on that.
We don't know for sure. We can't be dogmatic.
We can't be dogmatic. We got to be humble, but we don't have to apologize about it. You know,
We don't have to
but
apologize that we fucked everything up.
yeah, but if you have a come to Jesus moment during the Great Tribulation, you could still make it in. So that,
Right.
to me, that just tells me, okay, somebody like you and me, for example, could be the biggest apostates in the world, and then come the Great Tribulation. Oh, we're sorry, we repent. Let's go back, and we're good. Like
Basically.
that. That's almost like every other religion out there now.
Right. All you have to do is
You're
accept Jesus into your heart and you're saved. That's it. Just
yeah,
accept him as your Lord and Savior. And you're
and
good to
then
go, homie.
and we don't have to worry about any of the service, any of the meetings, any of the bullshit within the congregations. We could just slip right in right at the last second and be good.
That's a good point. Like, what if someone had gotten disfellowship because of old light? What if somebody died because they didn't accept a blood transfusion? What if I
Jay,
would have
they already answered
lost?
that question. They don't owe you an apology.
No, Jay, why are
What are you
you being
thinking,
so
man?
self-righteous? Jay,
I
you're
mean, come
being
on.
very self-righteous and self-centered with even expecting me to have to apologize.
Yeah, how
And
dare
then there
you?
we have our narcissistic, we have our Darvo for Fee out there who taught us Darvo, and we have our narcissistic relationship. We just gonna flip that all around. Do you want me to play David Splain saying they can't be dogmatic?
Yes, go ahead.
Let's do it. Okay, give me a second to pull this up. Okay. Here we go, y'all.
And you're saying to yourself, come on, come on. We've talked about the flood. We've talked about Sodom and Gomorrah. But what about the Great Tribulation? Is there anything that we can or can't say about that? No, that's a good question. We should talk about that. You know what?
Oh, this
I
is
think my time is up.
that's right. Shoot. This is the part where he says, my bad. That's the part where he said that he was trying to be funny, I guess, and walk off the stage before he answered the question. But he did say earlier, now I apologize, I thought I had it queued up to the right part where he said they don't have to be dogmatic. How about I take it to Jackson, where he says that there's a window of opportunity. I at least have that.
Okay.
5650. All right, we'll just start there.
The first question is, once the Great Tribulation starts, so we saw
That's a
there
good starting point.
with the destruction of Babylon the Great. So once it starts, is there a door of opportunity for non-believers to actually join us in serving Jehovah? Is there a door of opportunity? What have we said in the past? We've said, no, there will not be an opportunity for people to join us at that time. Now, why did we say that? Well, basically, we viewed the account of the flood as being a type and antitype portrayal, and that we thought the fact that the door of the ark was closed prior to the flood coming indicated that the door of opportunity would close once the Great Tribulation started. But of course, it's true, Jesus did compare the time of Noah with the presence of him as a reigning king. But notice Jesus didn't say anything that indicated this was a type antitype arrangement, and he certainly didn't mention anything with regard to a door of opportunity closing. So let's think about that question again. Once
Oh
the
my
Great
God, he talks
Tribulation
so slow.
starts,
I know.
is there a door of
Sorry, y'all.
opportunity still available? Well, to answer that, looking at this time chart, remember the judgment of
Wait.
the sheep and
Y'all. I'm sorry, but the fact that these dudes are like, okay, we're going to explain something to you. Now, looking at this time chart, a kindergartner could have made this time chart. It explains nothing, it does nothing, but put out your silly little display of what you think will happen in this fantastical future that you have created for yourself. I'm sorry, I just thought that. Do you want to keep going?
There's on top of that, there are no dates on this chart either. How is it a time chart?
There's it's all just bupkis. It's
Like,
okay, so fall of Babylon the Great. We're supposed to exactly know when that is because that's when the world turns against all false religion. Now,
yeah,
I don't know if you know what living in a democracy is, but in this country, that should it should. Now I know we're watching some issues right now, but that should never happen. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of what this purpose of this whole freedom, maybe the rest of the world, but I doubt it. It's just not gonna happen, and when you don't understand how the governments work, like how these systems work, as a Jehovah's Witness, you could believe that that could sound realistic to you, but that's not going to happen. So you're never going to know when the Great Tribulation starts unless they tell you it started and you just believe them. What's the squiggly line?
it,
That's
it
tribulation.
maybe the Great Tribulation.
Do you remember Excite Bike? Did y'all ever play Excite Bike where you could build your this is going back to like when I was 8 years old, but you could build your own little course and ride your motorcycle over it. And this just reminds me of Excite Bike when you put all the ramps back to back and you just you're welcome.
Yeah, that when you were 8, I was still probably like 2 or 3.
Oh, you know what?
So,
I just found where spleen I just needed to rewind it a couple seconds earlier because he says it right
okay.
before that. It's at the 49. So I only had to go back like 1 minute. So let me do that.
You don't know the time, do you?
I don't know the time, but I thought that was so funny what he said, considering we made him the White Rabbit in the Disney Plunderland video that we made. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, how funny. I was like, I'll have to use that. Okay, here we go. I'll just start here.
Everything about those who have died. And that's true. But since Jesus is doing the resurrecting, it's reasonable to conclude that he also knows everything about the dead and the living.
He's just not going
And
to tell
he's going to
you.
be able to resurrect
Yeah,
them
exactly.
accurately. Now, whether he'll share the power to resurrect with his anointed brothers when they're raised to heaven remains to be seen.
Oh,
So stay
Tony.
tuned.
Tony was hoping for that to kill
Well,
and
what's
to
the
resurrect.
takeaway from this
Here we go.
talk so far? How would you explain it to someone who wasn't here today? You would not say, some who died in Sodom and Gomorrah and in the flood are going to be resurrected, and Solomon isn't going to be resurrected. No, 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 you wouldn't say that.
Why not?
What we're saying is that we shouldn't be dogmatic about who will and who will not be resurrected. We just don't know.
Boom.
But we trust Jehovah God. We trust Jesus
Don't
Christ.
know, but Sodom and
They
Gomorrah
will
won't
do
be.
what is right.
Well, they actually said that that there's a possibility that these people can now be saved because of the whole
Yeah, they
so they
said that,
use
but he just said they
type
wouldn't
and
be.
no, he said he just doesn't want people to run away saying, "Oh, they could be resurrected." He just doesn't want people to go like a
But
few
see,
seconds he was just trying to say like don't go running and telling people that they will be
there's
coming
the
back
problem with
because
that argument. That's a red herring argument he's throwing out there because
yeah.
the Sodom and Gomorrah timeline has nothing to do with the timeline they're trying to talk about either.
Oh God, no. No, they're just
So,
using them as types. They were
yeah,
using them as a type of destruction, the flood, as they said, type, anti-type, Sodom and Gomorrah, because they've always used those as saying, okay, well, once it starts, like, too bad, so sad. Once that hellfire rains down, once the water started pouring, the door of the ark was closed. But of course the door of the ark would be closed when the water started, you bubkiss. Like, that's just so stupid. Oh, you got a kitten. Hi, Kit Kat. It's my kitty
congratulations,
cat.
Cindy.
Congratulations. We need to know a name now.
So, anyways, that's the big new light. We had a couple other stories we wanted to talk about as well. Maybe we could try to. I know your story with the Murdoch might take a little while, but can we try to
I could give like
abbreviate
a
it?
Yeah, I could give a brief like rundown of what that was. And of course, if you want to see my full video on it, I say full, but it's also like a brief rundown of what happened. So Alex Murdoch is was a high-powered lawyer, and he murdered his wife and his son. Now, for years, this lawyer has been getting away with stealing money from the firm that he worked at. And it's actually the firm that his great grandfather started. So this firm had been in existence for like 100 years or somewhere around then. And he stole millions upon millions of dollars with all of these scams that he was doing with another partner of his. So he thought he could get away with the murder of his wife and his son. Well, the day that he did this horrible crime, he had gotten a text message 4 hours earlier from a Jehovah's Witness that he was the lawyer of. So they had contact. So she wasn't just texting him out of the blue. This was the sister's lawyer. Alex Murdoch was the sister's lawyer. And she regularly would text people daily text. Well, the last daily text that she sent to him 4 hours before mentioned that money couldn't solve your problems, that the end is nigh. Now she's quoting scriptures, but take into consideration, she just sent a doomsday text about end of times to a man who was stealing money, had drug habits. Um, he was stealing so much money that there's no way that he even could have done enough drugs for the amount of money that he was stealing. Um, when I think of somebody who has so much money they can't even spend it, it makes me worry about the nefarious things that they would be doing with that kind of cash. He owned private islands. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not going to say anything because I'm not trying to get myself into trouble. But sometimes 1 plus 1 does equal 2. So he we don't know if I don't know if he replied to this message or anything, but somebody who is going through a very difficult time in their life, whether it be because they're just a piece of crap, which this guy could be, or not, you don't know how this text is going to land. I could be having a really, really bad day, just tired of the world, and somebody sends me a text saying the end is around the corner and you can't escape it. That could send somebody into a downward spiral. So I'm not going to say that she caused him to do those heinous crimes whatsoever, but we don't know how that would have landed on someone who was in the midst of all this drama, this legal drama. He was just about ready to be his whole case to be blown open, and then he ended up blowing his whole case open himself. So isn't that wild that she was sending over 100 texts like that a day to people that she
That is
knows,
wild.
considering it as a witness, probably counting her time for doing it and thinking she's doing a good deed, because to them those words are encouraging. End of times is something they're looking forward to. But for other people who don't believe in that, that could go left very quickly. So that's
Well,
the story, y'all.
and especially if you're in like a state of mind that you're not right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're just not
You
thinking
know,
right.
it, and you get a message like that, that could be enough to set you over the edge.
Mhm.
Especially if you believe in these end times, you know, prophecies, and set you off to go do something like what he did, you know?
Exactly.
And that's the danger in doing that and sending messages
Mhm.
like that. You never know what kind of state of mind you're going to catch people in. I mean, just like when we used to go door to door, we found all sorts of people in different states of mind. Some were,
Right.
for the most part, they were okay, but like we'd get the individual sometimes that was off their rocker, needed to be in a mental institution or trying to chase you off with guns or dogs. You never knew what you were going to find.
Yep, exactly. And this could land really badly for somebody, and there's no discernment. She saw, like, when she was this woman was interviewed, the Jehovah's Witness, when she was interviewed, she was just nonchalantly laughing about things. She said like 2 or 3 times she could say nothing bad about Alex. He was a sweetheart, a great man. And this guy just murdered his wife and his son. I'm not expecting you to go on a rampage and say derogatory things about him, but you certainly don't have to say how wonderful and sweet he was. It just doesn't
Yeah.
sit well with me. The way they're not very measured with their thinking.
Have you had a chance to watch the Netflix series on it?
No, I need to though. I do want to.
I've been watching it. There's 2 seasons now. I'm in the first episode of the second season. There's only 3 episodes in each season, so
Yeah. Okay.
it's not like it's a lot of shows to go through. But I mean, it's crazy just the relationships that were intertwined and how influential of a family they were in that town of South Carolina.
Oh
So,
yeah.
you know, he had power, he had influence, and he
Mhm.
had some obvious issues. And all these things just complicate a life so much. You just never know where it's going to end up. And
He
it's
had
always
so many
tragic to
balls in
see
the
that it
air.
ends up like that.
It is. And his son, I mean, he even helped cover his son who was driving a boat drunk, and
Hmm.
a young lady got killed,
Yeah.
and they basically covered that up. I would be heartbroken if somebody had that amount of power. They can just buy people. They can just get away with whatever they want. And I really think that he thought he could get away with murdering his wife and his son because he had certain police in his back pocket. When you
And
got
here's
that
something else.
amount of money,
Well, here's something else to consider too. It's not just the money, but it's a small town in southern part of America. You have a good old boy system going on in those small
just a
towns.
good old
So,
boys.
so you have all your buddies and their buddies, and it almost doesn't matter what you do. You can
Right.
get away with practically anything, up to and including murder in those kinds of towns,
Mhm.
especially if you have money and power in those towns. But
Absolutely.
you got that good old boy system, you got the money, you got the power. Nothing's taking you down unless somebody comes in from the outside and, you know, isn't in all that good old boy system and exposes it.
Right. At some point, there's gonna be people not in your clique. There will be people you can't just buy off.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you can get away with a lot of wild stuff, when
Yep.
you're in the clique.
All right. I wanted to bring out one last thing before we go today, because we've been trying to make little shorts every week to highlight our show and what we're going to do every week. And when we made our short, I guess we didn't really think about it enough at that time, how big of the news the JW New Light stuff was. So that's why we went in that direction today and talked about that more. So part of our stories I wanted to talk about today that we mentioned in that was also the Tim Ballard update, and from his OUR and all that, being caught up propositioning women and stuff. So he is now has been excommunicated from the Church of Mormon, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, like as they like to be called.
I
So
don't care what they want to be called.
Yeah. But anyways, there was a picture that I saw that John DeLim showed on Mormon Stories podcast. If anybody is interested in learning about the Mormons, that's a great podcast to listen to. He's an ex-Mormon, and he's been covering this Tim Ballard story like crazy. They have in their actual um, system, their computer systems, the head of the household, the mother, the children, in their computer databases like that in the Mormon Church. We
Mm.
didn't have that in the JWs, but now it's showing his wife Catherine Ballard as the head of household because Tim has been excommunicated.
Oh, that's funny.
And what I noticed something interesting too. So it's very similar to how the witnesses conducted their judicial committees because they have, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 of the men or whatever they call them in the Mormon church, but they met with Tim. But the only difference is they told him their verdict 2 days later. Whereas if you go to a judicial committee and the witnesses, they tell you the verdict right then and there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if that was different just because he is so like kind of um high, like people know him in the media, if you know what I'm saying. Like they wanted to be more precautionary about it or something. Or
Maybe.
maybe it does just take them. Maybe they need to pray for maybe they pray for days on end instead of just praying at the end of their discussion with you. I don't know. That's wild.
Maybe it
That would
takes
suck
longer
having
for
to wait.
God's Holy Spirit to work for the Mormons than it does the witnesses. I don't know.
It's a gradual light that gets
Yeah.
brighter if you didn't know. That's what it is.
The
It's
Holy Spirit
gradual.
gets brighter.
Yes. It's just the Holy Spirit taking its good old time, you know? I think Hurd said something, wait, or was it Let? Somebody said something that cracked me up about the speed of light. They said Jehovah moves faster than the speed of light. He moves at the speed of thought.
Okay. Now,
I don't
is
know
that
why. I was just like, okay.
now is that the speed of thought in a vacuum or in
Right,
gravity? Because those
right,
are
like,
different speeds.
and what kind of thought are you having? Because sometimes it takes me like
And is it like
hours to formulate a
and is
specific
that thought
thought.
near a black hole? Because
They
it seems
just
like they keep
say
getting sucked
stuff.
up their holes.
They just put stuff out of their holes. They don't care what hole it is. They just have it come
Yeah,
out of their hole. And
exactly.
oh, hi, Mrs. Pickle. She was just down there
Well,
going nuts.
well, it can be said of the governing body that their asses get jealous of their mouths because of all the shit they speak.
They don't know their mouth from their ass, honestly,
No, they don't.
in
But
my opinion.
anyways, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this show up here with that. Unless you got anything else you want to.
No, just please be certain to like this stream, share it. As always, if there's anything that you want us to share or discuss, there's a possibility we can do that. Even if maybe a special guest, there's something particular, we could be into that. Just leave us a comment, let us know.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
no,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you. But I want to make sure I bring it out, especially because it's coming up at the end of this month. Don't forget the protest coming up in Washington, D.C. on the
Oh, yes,
31st.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
So,
Please.
yes,
Who's
if you
going?
can get out there and support it, please go. I cannot go. I'm sorry. I wish I could. It's the middle of the week and I don't have the time to go. It's also my youngest son's birthday. Oh, and speaking
Oh,
of
happy
birthdays, I
birthday.
am so sorry to do this. I meant to do this at the beginning of the show, but today's my wife's birthday. So happy birthday to my wife.
Happy birthday, Crystal.
So,
Oh, you know
yes.
who we also forgot? Also, our buddy Jonathan, ex-witness awake. Please make sure y'all send him a happy birthday. Just go comment on one of his videos, XJW awake. No, ex-witness awake, Jonathan. Go share some birthday love with him. It was his nifty 50. So happy birthday, Crystal. Happy birthday, Jonathan. We love you. We want
And
you to know that your birthday is special. We don't care what the GB says.
damn right it is. And one last thing too, we're gonna also have a special guest on the show the day after the protest. So
Yes.
we're gonna have Wally from the JW Thoughts channel. He will actually be joining me live in my studio
Whoop,
for
whoop.
that show. So looking forward to that. So that's all I got. So anyways, have a great week, everybody. We love you all. Thank you for showing up like you do, and keep hitting those like buttons, keep sharing these and helping the algorithms out. And as always, apostate your way, everybody.
Listen, obey, and be blessed. Love you.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.